I want to talk a little bit about something Donald Trump has been saying. And even though I think Donald Trump's candidacy is essentially a joke, he is using one talking point that is parroted by some others. And Daniel Dresner has essentially destroyed on the Washington Post. Daniel Dresner wrote about Donald Trump's campaign promise that he will bring back jobs to the United States from China and Mexico. Let's put aside just for a second that Donald Trump is one of the people responsible for sending jobs to Mexico. Like, for example, the manufacturing of his menswear line, his suits, those were being manufactured in Mexico. So Trump is in part responsible for the problem. I don't know how likely it is he's going to be the person who solves the problem. But Daniel Dresner points out that this idea of bringing jobs back to the U.S., when we're talking about manufacturing jobs, which is really the discussion, it just doesn't make any sense. And what Dresner points out, and David Farenthold also points out, as Dresner writes about, is that there is really no chance of these jobs coming back. It's not that the manufacturing jobs have moved away and it's just because of a bad trade deal that they haven't yet come back. And as soon as someone like Trump gets in and gets tough with Mexico and China or whatever it is he's going to do, that these manufacturing jobs are going to come back. These jobs are gone. It is just not going to happen. And as Dresner writes in the Washington Post, quote, "The truth is that while a small fraction of American manufacturing jobs migrated overseas over the past few decades, a far greater fraction of manufacturing jobs simply disappeared and are not coming back. The far bigger driver of these job losses is the creative destruction that comes from technological innovation and productivity increases. As Matthew Iglesias wrote in Slate a few years ago, on net, global manufacturing employment declined from 96 to 2006. Factory jobs certainly added in China, but they weren't one-to-one displacing factory jobs in the West. Long story short, technology combined with our changing sort of place within society as humans in the world of manufacturing work have created a situation where these jobs are just disappearing. They're not just disappearing from the United States, right? They're disappearing overall. And Trump's refrain that he's going to bring the jobs back is based on the false idea that the jobs in manufacturing from the 70s and the 80s, even into the late 80s and early 90s, they're just somewhere else. And if the trade situation was right, if the taxation situation were right, if the incentives were right, they would move right back to the US. This is just not happening. And with regard to Donald Trump, it's also hilarious that the guy who keeps talking about bringing the jobs back is, number one, an exporter of jobs himself, manufacturing his menswear line in Mexico, and is known for a reality show in which he tells people that they're fired.